Hi, today I wanted to talk about corporations. And according to enterprise.com, a definition of a corporation is a form of business that operates and declares itself a business as a separate and legal entity guided by a group of officers, board of directors, and shareholders. So what does this really mean? It means that corporate structure is broken down into three parts. We have our shareholder parts, we have the board of directors, and we have officers. And that there is stock that is held in the company. And each person in the company who's on the board of directors has some of that stock or value of the company. So the board of directors can be family or business partners. That's how we've done our corporation. And the board of directors is the entity that does the day-to-day stuff. So they're the ones who decide how many therapists we're going to have, and they're the ones who decide how much we're going to charge for our fees. Well, who are the board of directors in my corporation? Well, me and two of my partners. And we each have a third of the share of the business. And the idea is that we each have our own specific role. And that's the nice thing about corporations, is that it can be split up. But a corporation could be one person, or it could be 3 people, it could be 5 people, it could be 100 people. But there's some taxation issues can be concerned about, and whether you're going to be taxed as a corporation, as a C corporation, or taxed as a S corporation. There's also other corporations like a B corporation, but that's way above my pay grade level and yours too. So when you decide to do a corporation, you're probably going to be looking at a S-Corp. So an S-Corp is very much like a limited partnership company in the fact that the income is passed through the corporation to its shareholders, and then the shareholders pay individual taxes on that money. But what the corporation does is it gives the shareholders and the board of directors the most protection ever from being liable of the company's debts, the lawsuits, and so it affords the board of directors and the shareholders the most of protection from liability. So if you are a C Corp, where you are paying into taxes based on your determination of being a C Corp, your business, your corporation pays taxes. So the amount of tax that you pay is based on your profit, or it would be on your loss, depending on how much you have. Most of us as therapists are going to be looking at a C corporation, and it's really only an IRS designation on how you want your profits taxed. And we talked with CPA, and for us and for most small businesses, a C corporation is too intensive, and it is more taxes than we would owe if we didn't already pass the savings down to the multiple shareholders. So there are some limitations. With a C corporation, you can only have 100 shareholders. That's not a problem for us. We don't have 100 shareholders, we have 3, and the 3 people are also on board of directors. So the limit of number of shareholders. The other thing about a C corporation is that it allows for an unlimited number of shareholders. So that's where you get public offerings, where you have thousands and thousands of stock. But most of us are not going to make our company public. We're not going to take it and put it on the stock exchange. We're not going to sell pieces of our company. We're going to keep it in-house. But what we are going to do is we're going to limit the liability that our business, the corporation, takes on for us personally. So when we decided to go with an S-Corp, we were taking on interns, and we were taking on some, well, now they're called associates or pre-licensed folks in California anyway. And we wanted to make sure that we were a little bit more covered than when it was just the 3 players that were doing the business. And so when we hired staff, we also thought that would be a good time that we chose a corporation, because then we would get a corporate malpractice. We would get corporate insurance. And then we also have that extra layer of the business being protecting us from liability. So let's review really quick. The pros of a business corporation is that it provides the most protection for its shareholders, directors, and board of director. It has the limited liability that a LLC also provides, in that it also has some pass-through income if you choose to elect as a S-Corp. It is a formal business structure, and it has duties. So you're going to have to elect a director. You're going to have to direct a secretary. You're going to have a vice president. And those positions are actually voted on yearly at the annual meeting, which you're going to have an annual meeting. But the annual meeting piece is kind of fun because you could choose to have your annual meeting anywhere in the world that you would like it and have your business pay for it. But that's another thing. Anyway, point being is that you have the ability to attract investors if you decided that you wanted more people to invest in your company. If one of the partners dies, the company still goes on. You don't have to redetermine and get a new company. You don't have to shut it down and start a new one. As long as in California anyway, as long as that person is licensed, the same as the other people on the board, then the shares can be divided equally. We're an independent entity, so a corporation is an independent entity and it'll act as such, so it will pay for its own taxes, but it also will pay for its liability. There's some other things that it does. As an S-Corp, though, we are paying a basic tax fee for the business, and then we pay individually on the profits that we have. The negatives for a corporation is that you do have to have formal plans. You do have to have documentation that's filed, articles of incorporation. You do have to have annual meetings. The annual meetings have to be written down. You also have to have a shareholder meeting. They have to be written down. You have to keep these written records. They take more time to set up. They're a little bit more costly. You're going to need a board of directors. You're going to need a director of the board of directors, and you're going to need to have shareholders, at least having stock divided up. So there are a few more formal things that have to happen when you have a corporation, but many times for those like in California where we can't do an LLC, a corporation is really our best bet. So I would talk to your CPA. I would check out the small business SBA.gov because it gives a whole list of all the business structures, and you could kind of figure out where you might want to go. Now again, we started as a partnership, and as we grew and added people, we switched over and went to an S-Corp. So you don't have to have the same structure all the time, but you do have to make sure that you file with the state, and you're going to file with the IRS to determine your tax designation, and you make sure that you get all the documents in a row that you're going to need, because you're going to need to show the banks and everything else some of these articles. So you're going to need a 2553 form that's going to elect you as an S-Corp. But again, talk to your CPA, talk to your financial planner people to determine what structure is right for you. Because at different times in your business, different structures may be more important. All right, take care.